The year was 1863. Cannon smoke rolled across the fields like low gray clouds. Men in blue and men in gray shouted, fired, screamed, and fell. The air smelled of gunpowder, blood, and wet earth. Above them, the sky was clear and bright until it wasn't. Private Jacob Miller of the Union Army was reloading his rifle when the world turned white. A sound like the sky breaking in half tore across the battlefield. Every man stopped. Muskets dropped. Officers turned their heads. Even the cannons went quiet for a heartbeat. Then something tore through the clouds. It wasn't a shell and it wasn't a bird. It was a huge, dark shape wrapped in fire and strange blue light. It screamed down from the heavens and cut a burning line across the sky. Another followed, then another like a rain of stars gone wrong. "Is it the Lord?" someone whispered. "No," Jacob said, his voice trembling. "That's not the Lord." The first ship hit the far ridge with a sound that shook the teeth in every mouth. The ground shuddered. Men were thrown to their knees. Dirt and rock exploded upward. The second ship roared overhead. So close Jacob could see smooth metal, glowing lines, and strange moving panels on its surface. The Confederate line broke first. "Retreat!" officers shouted. But where could they retreat to? The sky itself was falling. One of the burning ships slowed, engines screaming in a pitch no human instrument had ever made. It turned unnaturally fast, hung over the battlefield like a steel whale, and fired. A beam of green-white light cut across the earth and simply erased a section of forest. Trees, soil, men, horses gone. The beam carved a glassy trench into the ground. The war between North and South died in that instant. No one shouted "charge" anymore. No one cared about flags or uniforms. Men in blue and gray stared side by side with the same open-mouthed terror. What are they?" a Confederate soldier whispered. Jacob did not answer. He watched as sections of the ship opened, and shapes began to fall from the underside. They did not fall like men. They descended slowly, held up by faint rings of light under their feet. The aliens touched down in the center of the battlefield. They were tall, thin, with long arms and smooth, pale armor that shifted color like oil on water. Their faces were hidden behind dark helmets. Strange devices floated around them like metal birds. A Union officer found his voice first. "Men, open fire!" he shouted, more from fear than courage. Blue and gray uniforms both followed the order. Muskets cracked. Bullets flew. The aliens did not dodge. The bullets hit and stopped midair. They hung there, spinning slowly, caught in invisible fields. The lead alien raised a hand. A wave of force, unseen but terrible, smashed outward. Men flew through the air as if they weighed nothing. Ribs snapped. Muskets shattered. Horses screamed and dropped. Jacob woke up in a shallow crater, ears ringing. The sky still burned with falling ships. The battlefield as he knew it was gone. No lines, no order, only chaos. He pushed himself up, spitting dirt. Next to him, groaning, was a Confederate soldier. The man's gray uniform was torn, his hat missing, his face covered in ash. They stared at each other for a moment. Two enemies who had spent the morning trying to kill each other. Then another alien beam cut the earth not far away, vaporizing a cluster of wounded from both sides. Jacob reached out a hand. "Can you stand?" he asked. The Confederate looked at the burning trench, then at Jacob's blue coat. He took the hand without a word. Around them, more men in blue and gray were doing the same. Old enemies pulled each other up from the dirt. Officers grabbed whoever was standing and shouted new orders. Not against the North or the South, but toward the things descending from the sky. "Fall back to the tree line," someone yelled. "Together! Together!" Jacob and the Confederate soldier, who would later tell him his name was Eli, ran side by side. Cannon crews abandoned their old targets and turned their guns on the alien walkers that stepped from the smoldering wrecks. Round shot and grape shot tore into the strange machines. Some staggered. Some fell. Not many, but enough. The aliens had come expecting weakness, division, primitive weapons. A soft world trapped in its own war. What they found instead was something else. As the sun dipped and the sky flashed with alien fire, the first human alliance was born in a muddy, bloody field in 1863. No treaties were signed, no handshakes made, but the choice was clear in every soldier's heart. For the first time, they were not Union or Confederate. They were human, and the invaders had just made the worst mistake in galactic history. The first human alliance. Night fell, but darkness did not return. Alien ships burned in the sky like wounded stars. Some remained high, like silent watchers, while smaller craft swept low, firing beams that cut glowing scars into the earth. Fires spread across the forest. The smell of sap and flesh mixed into something terrible. Jacob, Eli, and about 50 survivors, blue and gray together, huddled behind a low ridge. Cannon crews worked in the dark, hands black with powder, eyes wide but steady. Officers from both armies argued in low, urgent voices. A Union colonel slammed his fist into the wooden table they had dragged from a shattered wagon. "This is madness," he said. "I cannot command Confederates. And I cannot command Yankees," a Confederate general shot back. "But we are all going to die if we do not do something together." Above them, a smaller alien craft glided by, scanning beams sweeping across the ground like searching eyes. Eli leaned close to Jacob and whispered, "They don't know how we fight." Jacob frowned. "What do you mean?" "They come from above," Eli said. "All bright and loud. Think their guns make them gods. They ain't never met a man who can disappear in bushes 5 feet away." He gave a crooked smile. Jacob understood. The aliens were strong. Their beams were deadly. Their armor shrugged off bullets. But they were also obvious. They stood tall. They walked proud. They fought in straight lines, as if no one could ever surprise them. A Union scout rushed over, breathing hard. "They're rounding up survivors. Anyone who can't walk, they shoot. Anyone who can walk, they mark with some kind of light and send them toward a ship. Prisoners, I think." "Slaves," Eli muttered. The colonel and the general looked at each other. "Our flags mean nothing to them," the colonel said slowly. "Our borders mean nothing. Our laws, our cause, our generals. None of it matters. To them, we are livestock." "Then we show 'em," the Confederate general replied. "We show 'em what livestock does when it bites back." They formed a plan not in hours but in minutes. The cannons would fire in scattered patterns, not on a single target. Not big, slow volleys but quick, sharp shots to confuse and disrupt. Soldiers would split into small teams, mixed blue and gray, moving through woods, trenches, and ruins. They would strike the alien infantry and machines from cover, disappear, then hit again. No lines, no drums, no marching. Guerrilla war. Jacob and Eli were assigned to one of the new mixed squads. Men glanced at each other's uniforms at first, but no one complained. The fear in the sky was bigger than old hate. As they crawled through a ditch, closer to the alien landing zone, Jacob watched the strange machines move. Tall walkers with jointed legs and glowing panels stepped carefully. Smaller floating drones scanned the ground, sweeping beams of light back and forth. "We can blind 'em," Eli whispered. "They look. We make sure they don't like what they see." They had no grenades, no rockets, but they had black powder, nails, bottles, and courage. Soon they had crude bombs. The first attack was small. A floating drone drifted over a patch of broken earth, searching for life. It did not find any. It did not see the bottle buried under a thin layer of mud, with a short burning fuse. The explosion was weak by alien standards but strong by human ones. The drone crashed to the ground, its shell cracked. The aliens turned. Cannon fire roared from the tree line. Round shot smashed into one of the tall walkers, breaking one of its legs. It stumbled and fell, sparks flying. Men hidden in the smoke rushed out, poured black powder into joints, then retreated before the machine exploded. On another side, a group of soldiers used the thick night and fires as cover. They ran between shadows and flame, reaching alien infantry. A bullet might not pierce the front of an alien helmet, but the side, at close range, worked better. Knives slid into weak points. Blood dark, thick, and hot hit the dirt. For the first time, alien forces on Earth took real losses. Aboard the command ship in orbit, the invading commander watched data streams of red and green light. His name, as humans would later try to pronounce it, sounded like a hiss through broken glass. He was irritated. The species classification record had been clear. Earth, PREFTL. Internal conflict, low technological risk. The recommendation: subjugate with minimal force. Now, his field officers sent confused signals. Casualty reports climbed. Local resistance did not behave like expected patterns. Their war had not broken them. It had sharpened them. The commander opened a new file. He changed the threat level of Homo sapiens from low to unknown. On the ground, as dawn approached, Jacob and Eli crouched in a ruined farmhouse, breathing hard. Their uniforms were soaked, half with sweat, half with other things. "Think they'll run?" Jacob asked. Eli shook his head. "Not yet. They still think we're soft." Jacob looked out at the burning fields. Men from both armies fought together in little pockets of stubborn resistance. It was messy. It was desperate. It was human. "They came while we were busy killing each other," Jacob said quietly. "Thought we'd be easy prey." Eli smirked. "They forgot one thing," he said. "What's that?" "We might fight each other," Eli said. "But God help the fool who thinks he can fight all of us at once." The war behind the war. Days turned into weeks. The formal battles of the Civil War vanished. Newspapers that survived the first bombardments stopped printing about Union advances or Confederate victories. Headlines now spoke of strange machines in the sky, fires from heaven, and joint command. Joint. The word would have been unthinkable months earlier. Across North and South, messages spread by telegraph, messenger, and word of mouth. Ceasefire. All firing upon fellow Americans to stop at once. New orders. Resist the invaders. Help any human, no matter the uniform. Some refused at first. Some tried to keep fighting the old war. But alien beams did not care what color your coat was. Those who clung to old hate died fast. The rest learned quickly. Humanity had no world government. No united command. But it had something else. Millions of minds that refused to surrender. They studied the enemy. Farmers watched how the ships moved across the sky and noticed patterns. Telegraph operators listened to strange static and realized it was not random. It was communication. Blacksmiths felt the alien metal and began experimenting with new tools. Doctors treated wounds caused by beams and strange energy, learning slowly how to save more lives. Above the planet, the alien commander grew more annoyed. He had deployed small forces to test resistance and break morale. Instead, resistance had grown. Every time his troops adapted, humans changed their tactics. They did not follow patterns. They did not break the way simulations said they should. A report from one of his field officers described it best. They learned during battle, not after. During. The commander decided to escalate. He ordered orbital strikes on key cities, hoping to crush human organization. Bolts of energy lanced down from the sky, hitting war factories, shipyards, and rail hubs. Fires swallowed parts of New York, Richmond, Philadelphia, and beyond. The strikes killed many, but they also united the survivors even more. In underground bunkers, improvised tunnels, and hidden caves, leaders from both sides met in secret. Generals, scientists, telegraph experts, ship captains, and even former outlaws shared information. A map of Earth lay on a large table, lit by gas lamps. A northern admiral pointed at the oceans. Their big ships avoid deep sea for now. They stay in orbit or close to land. A southern engineer pointed at a valley. We brought down one of their smaller craft here. This metal doesn't like cold. Under extreme chill, it becomes brittle. A railroad man tapped the table. We can move men and supplies faster than they can. Their big guns are strong, but slow to reposition. Jacob and Eli sat at the edges of these meetings, not as generals but as experienced fighters. They spoke of how aliens reacted to ambushes, how their devices scanned, how long their patrols needed to recharge. "We can't match their ships," one officer said. "Not yet. Not this century." "Then we don't try," another replied. "We won't outgun them, but we can outthink them. We know this terrain. They don't." A plan formed not to defeat the invaders outright, but to force them to change their strategy. To make the planet so costly, so confusing, that they would pause, regroup, and in that pause humanity would learn even more. The first major step was bold and insane. They would steal a ship. Not a massive orbital cruiser, that was impossible, but one of the smaller dropships that moved between ground and orbit. The idea spread like wildfire. Sounded mad. It was mad, but madness fit the times. Jacob and Eli were part of the team chosen for the attempt. They trained with others in abandoned fields, learning patterns of alien patrols. A captured alien rifle, clumsy at first in human hands, became a centerpiece. Tinkerers and gunsmiths stripped it apart, studied its crystal core, and built crude devices that could mimic a fraction of its power. Not perfect, not pretty, but deadly at close range. On a cold night, under a sky choked with smoke and alien light, the team moved into position near a known landing zone. They wore no bright uniforms now, only dark, rough clothes smeared with mud and ash. The dropship descended, engines humming in that strange high tone. It was routine for the invaders. Another day of collecting prisoners and resources. They did not see the wires stretched between rocks, connected to barrels buried in the mud. They did not see the human eyes watching from the shadows. As the ship's ramp lowered, the charges went off. The blast did not destroy the ship. It wasn't meant to. It rocked it hard, slamming it into the ground, bending one of its landing struts. The aliens inside stumbled. Some fell. Human shadows rushed in. Jacob felt time slow. He fired one of the stolen alien rifles. The beam was unstable, but it burned a hole through an alien chest. Eli stabbed another through a weak joint in the armor, learned from hours of study. They fought not like soldiers in lines, but like hunters around a wounded beast. Minutes later, it was done. The dropship belonged to them. It was damaged. The systems were strange. The controls made no sense. But somewhere, in a hidden barn or underground workshop, human minds would study it, tear it apart, learn. That night, as they rode away from the smoking landing zone, Jacob looked up at the stars. "They think they're advanced," he said quietly. "Aren't they?" Eli asked. Jacob smiled faintly. "Sure," he said. "For now." The long, quiet climb. Time moved forward. The invasion did not end in a year or 10. It ended slowly, in a way no alien strategist expected. The commander in orbit did not lose a great final battle. He lost patience. His troops reported that Earth was not like other conquered worlds. The humans hid in forests, mountains, and cities. They attacked when least expected. They sabotaged equipment. They learned alien patterns and broke them. Every time the invaders changed tactics, humans adapted faster. The cost in resources and lives climbed. The commander requested reinforcement fleets. The Galactic Empire, busy with many worlds and confident in its power, decided Earth was not worth it for now. The order came down: withdraw to observation distance. Leave monitoring satellites. Mark the planet as quarantined, unstable. The ships left. They did not leave clean. They left wrecks behind, fallen machines, broken drones, lost weapons. They left strange metals scattered across battlefields and crash sites. They left satellites high above that sometimes failed and fell. They left information. Humans gathered all of it. For decades, then a century, the story of the invasion was told as legend. Some called it angels and demons. Some called it demons and devils. Some said it never happened. Governments blurred the truth. Records were lost in wars, fires, and time. But in hidden places, knowledge survived. A secret line of engineers, scientists, and thinkers passed alien schematics from hand to hand. Radios built from salvaged parts could hear strange whispers from space. Crystals once used in alien rifles became cores for new human devices. History marched on. The Civil War ended in a very different way, with both sides too exhausted to fight. New nations rose, industries grew, and human wars continued, as they always did. But always, somewhere in the shadows, someone was working on something more. By the late 21st century, humanity had changed. Cities glowed with clean energy drawn from reverse-engineered crystals. Ships that once relied on chemical rockets now used drives based on alien designs. Not perfect copies, no. Human versions. Rough at first, then smooth, then brilliant. Where the aliens had used sleek, elegant engineering, humans used flexible, modular design. Where aliens depended on rigid doctrine, humans embraced improvisation. The first human faster-than-light ship did not look beautiful. It was bulky, with mismatched panels, reinforced frames, and redundant systems. But it worked. When it jumped, riding on a controlled twist in spacetime taught by long-dead invaders, humanity felt the universe open. On the bridge of that first FTL ship, an old symbol hung on the wall. A faded piece of cloth combining blue and gray into one banner. No stars and stripes, no battle flag, just a single hand-painted word. Human. Jacob and Eli were long dead by then, but their names were carved on a steel plate near the ship's heart, along with thousands of others who had fought the First War. The galaxy did not notice at first. Humans appeared in deep space like a new flicker in a vast night. Other species had been there for ages, under the rule of the same empire that once tried to conquer Earth. But when the first human ship appeared near a frontier station, the reaction was confusion. They are not registered, the station's AI reported. Their design is unusual. A search of records found an old report. Earth, PREFTL, internal conflict, withdrawn. Yet here was a ship from Earth, bearing weapons that were not quite alien and not quite primitive. Human officers hailed the station in calm voices. "This is the United Earth ship Gettysburg. We come in peace," they said. The station's commander, a cautious insectoid, allowed docking. He expected diplomats, maybe traitors. What he found instead were humans who walked with a strange mix of humility and hidden steel. They listened more than they spoke. They asked careful questions. They smiled often, but their eyes measured everything. The Galactic Empire took note, and for a while they laughed. Humans were late to the stars. They lacked the massive fleets, the polished political traditions, the complex social hierarchies. They had many cultures, many governments, many opinions. They were messy, yet beneath the mess, something else moved. Human scientists looked at galactic technology and adapted it in years, not centuries. Human soldiers studied alien doctrines and wrote counter-strategies in months. Human diplomats entered the halls of the Galactic Council not as conquerors, but as careful observers. They remembered the empty chair. Earth requested a formal seat in the council. The Empire refused. "Your species is too young," they said. "Too unstable. You are welcome to observe, but not to decide." Humans accepted the answer calmly. Outwardly. Inwardly, they began to plan. The Council underestimates us. The Galactic Council was a vast ring of light and sound, a station the size of a small moon. Delegates from thousands of worlds gathered there to argue, trade, threaten, and pretend to keep peace. Humans arrived with a small delegation and a single warship. Compared to the Empire's massive dreadnoughts, it looked like a patrol craft. Other species chuckled quietly. "They think that can protect them?" one crystalline diplomat said. "Let them play at politics," a reptilian general added. "They are new. They will learn their place." In the main council chamber, humans were given seats high in the viewing tiers, far from the central floor. From there, they watched. They watched how the Empire used trade routes as weapons. They watched how certain neutral fleets moved when no one else was looking. They watched how small border worlds were punished for breaking rules that big core worlds ignored. They took notes. Ambassador Alina Hayes, leader of the Earth delegation, understood something quickly. The Empire was old and powerful, but tired. Its systems worked, but only because no one strong enough had ever dared to break them. Her aide showed her a hidden data file. "Remember this?" he asked. It was a copy of an old alien report, stolen from a crashed ship a century earlier. It had one word highlighted: quarantined, Earth, unstable. She smiled. Deep in council archives, officers analyzed human presence. They noted their rapid learning, their fast response to new cultures, their surprising flexibility in negotiations. They overextend, one analyst said. Too curious, too eager. They will make mistakes. Then a small border war began. Two client species, both under the Empire's protection, clashed over a mineral-rich moon. Normally, the Empire would send a peacekeeping fleet that mostly kept peace for whichever side paid more tribute. This time, humans arrived first. A small human task force dropped between the two warring sides and simply blocked any further attacks. They did not fire unless fired upon. They broadcast messages in both languages translated by AI, explaining that there were better options than mutually assured destruction. They offered a mediation. At first, both alien factions rejected it. Then they saw human ships shrug off first volleys by using strange shield patterns and deceptive maneuvers. Human captains did not fight according to standard models. They faked weakness, then struck from unexpected angles. They used terrain, gravity, and timing in ways the Empire's War College had never considered. The border war ended not in a glorious final battle, but in a signed agreement where both sides got slightly less than they wanted, but much more than they would have had left in a full war. The council took note. A whisper began: humans were good at solving problems. Not gently, not softly, but decisively. Still, the Empire refused Earth a central seat. When Ambassador Hayes requested one again, a senior counselor laughed. "With respect, human," he said, "you are brave, you are clever, but you are new. The galaxy has run just fine without you for thousands of years." Hayes held his gaze. "Has it?" she asked softly. "From where we stand, it looks like you have been stuck in the same pattern for a long time. Trade, tribute, border wars, peace enforced by fear. That is, stable, perhaps, but not fine." Murmurs spread. The counselor waved a claw lazily. "Stability is enough. For now," Hayes said, "until you meet something you cannot predict. Something that does not play by your rules." "Like you?" he mocked. She smiled politely. "Like us. Or someone worse." The council dismissed her. But in military briefing rooms deep within the station, officers raised a different concern. If humans were this effective with small ships and little political power, what would happen if they ever built a real fleet? Part 6: The War That Never Happened. Fear is a strange thing. Can make people hide. Can also make them strike too soon. Within the Empire's high command, a plan formed. Neutralize Earth before it grew too strong. Not public conquest. That would cause unrest. No, a quiet containment operation. They would stage an accident, pirate attack, a reactor failure, something that would cripple Earth's growing fleet and make humans turn inward for a few more centuries. They sent a fleet. It never reached Earth. When the Empire's ships dropped out of faster-than-light near the Sol system, they found something unexpected. A web of sensor drones, stealth satellites, and automated defense stations, all powered by hybrid human-alien tech. More than that, they found human ships waiting. Not one, not a few, an entire formation. The human flagship, USS Unity, hailed the invading fleet calmly. "This is Ambassador Alina Hayes of Earth," she said, her voice clear across the void. "You have entered our defensive zone without cause or notice. State your intention." The Empire's admiral hesitated. His orders had assumed surprise. They had not considered this. "We are here to respond to reports of instability," he said. "For your own protection." Hayes smiled slightly on the screen. "We know," she said. "We read your codes. We cracked them 60 years ago." Shock rippled across the enemy bridge. "How?" he demanded. "Because we do what we always do," she said. "We learn. We adapt. We listen when you think we are not listening. You taught us what we needed when you invaded our world long ago." Behind her, on the Unity's bridge, hung an old, framed photograph of two dirty, tired men. One in blue, one in gray, standing on a battlefield, muskets in hand. We were divided when you came the first time, Hayes continued. You thought that made us weak. You were wrong. It made us good at fighting things stronger than us. It made us good at uniting when we have to. The Admiral glanced at his tactical display. Human ships moved in patterns his computers could not predict. Their drive signatures were strange, erratic, deliberate. Shields flared in ways that did not match known models. Some ships flickered on and off sensors like ghosts. We do not want this fight, Hayes said. But we are ready for it. We have spent more than a century preparing for someone to try again. The Admiral's claw shook over the command interface. He could order an attack. His ships still outnumbered the humans. But something deep inside him, the same instinct that had once told his ancestors to flee from predators, whispered that the numbers did not tell the full story. Humans had a way of turning bad odds into legend. He hesitated too long. In that pause, a new signal hit his sensors, messages from worlds across the Empire. Worlds where humans had helped negotiate peace. Worlds where human doctors had cured old plagues with fresh ideas. Worlds where human engineers had improved failing systems. If you attack Earth, one message said, we will not aid you. If you strike at humans, another read, we will reconsider our loyalty. The Empire had ruled by fear. Humans had built something else, trust. Not with everyone. Not perfectly. But enough. The Admiral realized the truth. Firing on Earth now would not just start a war with one world. It would fracture the Empire. He closed his eyes. He stood down. This fleet will withdraw, he said slowly. For now. Hayes nodded once. We will remember that, she said. So will history. The war never happened. Not because humans were weak. Because by the time anyone dared to attack them again, they were too strong. Politically, technologically, and psychologically. The galaxy had learned to be afraid of human war. It had also learned to be grateful for human peace. The empty chair filled. Years later, the Galactic Council chamber looked different. The old empire had softened, reshaped by many small changes. Trade patterns had shifted. Border wars had declined. A new idea had spread like slow fire. Cooperation not from fear, but from shared survival. At the very center of the council floor, on a slightly raised platform, stood one chair that had once always been empty. It was simple. Dark metal, smooth curves, faint inner glow. Built by many species together. Designed for no particular body shape, but adaptable to many. Above it floated a single holographic word, written in dozens of languages. Humanity. When the chair was first placed there, some had protested. Giving them a central seat will unbalance power, a crystalline delegate said. They are too dangerous, a reptilian general grumbled. Too unpredictable. Exactly, a small insectoid diplomat replied. When something is that dangerous, you don't keep it in the shadows. You put it in the center where everyone can see it, and where it can see everyone. The day came when the chair would no longer be empty. Ambassador Alina Hayes, older now, with gray in her hair and sharpness still in her eyes, walked down the central ramp. The chamber quieted. Thousands of eyes watched, some with fear, some with anger, many with respect. She paused before the chair. For a moment, she thought of Jacob and Eli and the nameless thousands who had stood together under burning skies. She thought of the fields of 1863, when men who hated each other had united to fight something worse. She thought of how close humanity had come to destroying itself before the invaders arrived. How that first war had been both tragedy and strange blessing. Humans did not ask for this seat, she said to the chamber. Her voice carried clearly. You offered it. Not because we are perfect. We are not. Not because we are gentle. We are not always that either. Murmurs, nervous laughter. You offered it, she continued, because you have seen what happens when humans are forced to fight. You have seen what happens when we are forced to learn. You have seen that we do not stop. Not when we are hurt. Not when we are cornered. Not when we are underestimated. She looked around. We remember the day you tried to conquer us while we were divided. You united us. By accident, yes, but you did it. And we never forgot the lesson. Hayes sat down in the chair. It adjusted around her, humming softly. Lights shifted. The holographic displays of the chamber reoriented slightly, making the human seat one of the primary focal points. For thousands of years, she said, you ran this galaxy by fear. Fear of your fleets. Fear of your rules. Fear of change. She smiled. We run on something else. We run on stubbornness. On memory. On the idea that no matter how strong the enemy, there is always one more trick, one more strategy, one more way to survive. We are the species that learned to make tools from stone, ships from wrecks, and star drives from broken invasions. Her eyes grew hard. Do not mistake our wish for peace as weakness. We remember how to make war. We remember very well. And that memory is one reason you gave us this chair. Silence filled the chamber. It was not empty fear. It was the heavy quiet of understanding. Here is my promise, Hayes said at last. Humanity will use this chair to hold back the worst of what we all can be. We will argue. We will push. We will annoy you. We will ask questions you don't like. We will break patterns that should have been broken ages ago. A small smile touched her lips. And if something out there, something worse than any of us, comes knocking on our galaxy's door, we will be the first to stand. As we did once, long ago, when the sky burned over our own fields. She placed her hand on the armrest. For we are human, she said softly. You came to us during our civil war and united us by trying to conquer us. If you, or anything else, forget what that means, we will be happy to remind you. The lights of the chamber pulsed. Delegates, one by one, bowed their heads, not to a queen, not to a god, to a species that had crawled from mud and smoke, stood under alien fire, and turned invasion into evolution. The empty chair was no longer empty. The galaxy was never the same again. And somewhere, in the quiet corners of space, in training halls and starship bridges, young humans heard the stories of 1863 and smiled, because they knew what the aliens had finally learned. You can outgun humans. You can outnumber humans. But you should never, ever underestimate humans.